chop it up and make you feel the groove. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Doom, 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 doom.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey, or to my students, Mr. Bonilla, and I teach music. And I'm a director of music for a church in Santa Monica, California. And I do music all day long. And probably like a lot of other teachers, I am teaching from home, from behind a microphone and behind a camera. So I've never done this before. I've never tried to teach asynchronously or make videos for my students. I've just always taught in class. So I thought I often have friends ask me to help them with music theory. And so I thought, I'm making these videos anyway, why not just put them on YouTube? And so just couple disclaimers, caveats, what have you. I have the ADD, and so I'll do my best to kind of like keep things tight, but sometimes I bounce off that wall, and then I go there. So that's one thing. But I'll do my best to stay on topic. The second thing is that for the most part, this is really geared towards my students that are they might not know anything about music theory. They might know a lot, but basically I start from the very beginning and try and speak in non-musical terms as much as possible while I introduce music ideas. So I want my class to be a class that everyone can take, so I have to kind of start from the very beginning. So you might find a mixture of beginning and advanced concepts in the early videos where you'll be like, okay, clear, Jeff, that's like super basic. And then also like, oh, I never thought about it that way. So I try to kind of group ideas in a way that is a little unconventional, but it works for me and for my students. So I think that's all the disclaimers. If you like it, I don't, what did the YouTubers say? Click and subscribe. I don't know. Anyway, enjoy free music lessons. So what am I doing here? The objectives for today's lesson are to have a basic understanding of what music theory is, distinguish half steps and whole steps, know what a chromatic scale is, know what a tetrachord is. And a tetrachord, we really just talk about it for like a week because it's a stepping stone to what a major scale is, which you'll know by hearing it on first listen if you don't already know what it is. Okay, so what is music theory? Music theory is the study of the practices and possibilities of music. Okay, so I wouldn't say that every composer, every songwriter is a music theorist, right? And not every music theorist is a composer or a songwriter or a music producer. But a music theorist is the guy that walks around behind the composer, taking notes of what he wrote and why it sounds the way it sounds. Why does music sound the way it sounds? What are the patterns? Music is language. Music is math. Music is so many things. And the music theorist is anxious and eager to find out why it is the way it is. Okay. What are half steps and whole steps? Well, allow me to introduce someone to you. His name is Bebot. Here is Bebot singing low. It's me sliding my finger to the right, to the left on this little app. It's a basic synthesizer. And when you hear the sliding, you don't really hear any sort of delineation of notes. You don't hear different notes. I'm going to add a grid. You're still not going to hear the delineation, but you're going to see what... Still very smooth, no separation. And now I'm going to go in here and have it snap to the grid, the notes. That's delineated by 12 notes every octave. I'm going to remove some notes here so it'll sound more like a scale. Awesome. That is bebop. As you noticed, first we slid up and down, right? Like a continuous line, and you didn't really hear a separation of notes. It just, kind of slid up and slid down. And then we added a grid, and I set bebop to snap to notes. And when he snapped to notes, then you could hear the separation of the notes, not just one continuous like slide whistle of a synthesizer. Well, in mathematics, when you have a line and you have 2 points on the line, the distance between those 2 points is called an interval. In music, we use the same language. So the distance between any 2 notes is an interval. And there's a whole lot of intervals. And you're going to learn what those intervals sound like and how to use them and what they're good for, what they're not good for. But today we're just starting off with kind of the 2 most basic intervals, the smallest intervals, right? And bebop demonstrated kind of when we move by teeny tiny step, and then he showed you what a scale sounded like, which is taking out even more notes, and then he showed you what like a 5-note scale sounds like, right? And so those intervals, when you have less notes in between, those intervals are greater. But that very first scale where we were snapping to things was a 12-note scale, right? Okay. So that smallest interval from one line to the next, when we played that 12-tone scale, is called 1 semitone. And it is the smallest interval in Western music. We call it a half step for now. There's different names for all of the intervals, but for now, we're going to call it a half step or a semitone. Okay, 2 semitones. The next, it's almost the smallest. It's the next one. We also call it a tone, right? A semitone is like a part of a tone, half of a tone. But a tone, 2 semitones, is what we call a whole step for now. Again, that one has another technical name that we're going to learn. Okay, so I just spoke briefly about what a chromatic scale is. It's literally all notes moving a semitone at a time. And so in Western music, that's every note. So here's the technical definition. Okay, the chromatic scale or 12-tone scale is a musical scale with 12 pitches, each a semitone above or below its adjacent pitches. Okay, so that's a really complicated way of saying it. It's just every note. So if in a musical scale, which we're going to talk more about this in a little bit, but we use, and when I say a little bit, not this lesson, but in a future lesson, but I'm just going to plant this seed here. The letters that we use in music are the first 7 letters of the alphabet. And the reason we only use 7, see, like you might be asking yourself, Mr. Bonilla, Mr. B, you just said there was 12 notes, right? But why would you only use 7 letters of the alphabet? Why not use the first 12 letters of the alphabet? Well, because it's a lot of letters and you're giving musicians too much credit. No, that's not it. It's because we usually only use 7 notes at a time. And that's so as we learn music, you're going to see why it's really beneficial to just use 7 letters of the alphabet. And we'll go through all that. But just for now, you have to know how that, it's a chromatic scale is 12 notes from one note to the next note. And now I'm going to show you what that looks like on guitar and piano. All right. Chromatic scale. You'll notice on a guitar, you have this double dot thing here. And that is because this is basically, up here, is whatever note is played open. For example, that's a low E. And if I go all the way to the double dot, It's a higher E. It's an octave up. We call it an octave. You're going to learn why later. But for now, that's the same note name. E and E. Now, just like we saw bebop demonstrate, if we go up by half steps, semitones, each fret on a guitar takes you up a semitone. You don't really see that on violin. You just have to learn and use your ear, or cello, or any stringed instrument that doesn't have frets. But on a guitar, it's easy to see because we've got frets. Frets are those metal little lines here where if I press my finger, the string is now shortened by that much, right? It used to be this long. Now I've shortened it and it sounds higher. So you kind of hear it as the string that is vibrating gets shorter, the sound gets higher. Okay, so semitones. So this fifth string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we count the strings from the ground up. So string 1, string 2, string 3, string 4, string 5. It's called an A string. Okay? If I go up 12 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, the 12th note is an A. So that's what a chromatic scale looks like on the guitar. It's 12 notes. And today we demonstrated it going up one string, but you could even play it not going up. You could utilize other strings so that your hand's not just like jumping all around. But it's kind of nice to see a straight line from open to 12. Okay, time for piano. All right, so here we are at the piano. We got a nice little aerial view. And here we're gonna have, you don't need to know what this note is, but I'll just tell you, it's a C. But you don't have to memorize that now. Here's a C, and the very next time we see a C is right up here. And all up and down the piano, they're all gonna look the same. You have these two keys, and then a C just below it. You have these two black keys here, and this white key right below it is a C. Okay, now the way piano works is instead of it being like a straight line like a guitar string is, the piano zigzags. So if you zoom out, it looks like a straight line. If you zoom out far enough, right? But this is a semitone up. This is a semitone up, semitone up. Right now I'm moving up by semitone. And you're gonna notice in a couple spots, there's not an in-between note. That happens a couple times. And we'll talk about that later. But for now, you just have to know if there's a note that is adjacent, it's the next note up. So this is not the next note up because there's a note in between. So this to here is a semitone or a half step. And from here to here is two semitones or a whole step. Or a tone, you can also call it. From here to here, the distance is a tone, a whole step, two semitones. There's going to be more ways to describe it down the road. So if I go from any note to the next octave of the same note, again, octave is just a word for the same note in a different register. If I go up by semitones, that's my 12-tone scale or my chromatic scale. 2, 1, so here's my starting note. 1, I'm counting semitones. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 before I get to the octave. That is a chromatic or 12-tone scale on a piano. All right, so what is a tetrachord? You're not, you learn what a tetrachord is for like 2 weeks, and then you just never, ever think about that word ever again. So I'm just letting you know, it's really just a stepping stone for us to understand what a major scale is. So in Western music, the tetrachord is an ascending series of 4 notes. The word tetra means 4. The pattern for a tetrachord is whole step, half step. So that's 3 spaces, right? So 4 notes, and I don't know what left to right is. I probably have to go that way. Okay. So you have your any note, any starting note, whether it's on piano, guitar, you go whole step, and then you have a smaller step here, a half step. So 2 semitones to this note, or a tone, 2 semitones to this note, or a tone, or a whole step, and then 1 semitone, or a half step, and that completes the pattern for a tetrachord. I'm going to show you what that looks like on a piano and a guitar. And then that's really going to be it for today's lesson. There's a lot of information. Might seem like the basics, but you're if this is easy for you, awesome. Revel in that. But also we're going to like go super far, super fast. So giddy up, buckle up. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what those look like. All right, tetrachord on guitar. And we're just going to stick to 1 string on the guitar. Okay, so I could pick any starting point. Let's say I'm here. So I'm at this first dot on this guitar, which is the 5th fret. Doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter what note it is. We're just looking at the pattern here. If I have A, I just told you what the note name was. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. If I play this note, the tetrachord pattern is to go up a whole step, 1, 2, go up another whole step, and then go up a half step. So musically that sounds almost musically. So I'm going whole step, half step. So first interval, second interval, third interval. Okay? So that's a tetrachord. And again, it's just the beginning of a lot of types of scales, which is why we talk about it. But after we learn those other scales, we're not really going to talk about a tetrachord again. Okay, but now for the sake of our due diligence, let's go over to the piano and see what a tetrachord looks like on there. All right, a tetrachord on piano. A tetrachord on piano looks like this. You have a whole step, so that's 1, 2. So I'm skipping that note because I need a whole step. And then from here, I need another whole step. And then from here, I need a half step. So if I start on this note, it's just the 4 notes in a row of the white keys. Aha, but not so easy. Let's try starting here. So to do a tetrachord starting on this note, I go up 4, or go up 2 semitones. 1, 2. Go up another 2. And then go up a half step. So I have... Pretty easy, right? What if I started here? And I needed to play a tetrachord here. I'm using my hand weird so you can see all the keys. Here's the starting note, up 2, up 2, up 1, 1 half step. And that is how to play tetrachords on piano. All right, we did it. We answered the question, what am I doing here? We are expanding our minds to the vast amazingness of music. Feel those vibrations, music, the tonality rising within you. Isn't that amazing? All right. And just because I like to remind you what we went over, these were the objectives that we had today: to have a basic understanding of what music theory is, distinguish half steps and whole steps, know what a chromatic scale is. You know what that is. You know. And know what a tetrachord is, which is our stepping stone to what is to come. So thank you so much for watching, and this was a great class. It was so fun. So see you soon.